If you had asked me a year ago what kind of woman I was, I'd have told you I was the loyal type. The kind who believed in marriage vows. In sticking it out through sickness, health, late nights at the office, canceled date nights, forgotten anniversaries. I would have told you I believed in Richard. In us. But belief is funny. It can make you blind, and in my case it did. Until one evening when belief snapped like a dried-out rubber band. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special. Nothing different. Richard had texted earlier saying he had a late meeting. I had poured myself a glass of wine, curled up on the couch, and watched some trashy reality show that only half held my attention. At 9:12 p.m. I heard the garage door open. Richard walked in, loosened his tie, kissed my cheek like always. Routine. Predictable. And now I know rehearsed. We went to bed around 11. He fell asleep almost instantly. I lay there listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing and, for reasons I still can't explain, felt this emptiness. A tiny, gnawing whisper in my gut that something wasn't right. I brushed it off as paranoia. The next night, the whisper turned into a scream. He was in the shower. His phone buzzed on the counter, and I glanced at it out of habit, not suspicion. But then I saw the name. Baby HR. Froze. I stared at the screen, heart hammering, unsure if I was imagining things. Another buzz. A video preview popped up. I shouldn't have clicked it. But I did. It was a short clip. Less than 20 seconds. Shot from a low angle. Hotel sheets. Richard. No mistaking his voice, his hands. The ring he wore that I had placed on his finger 6 years ago under a sky full of spring stars. My whole body went cold. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't cry. I didn't scream or throw the phone against the wall. I just watched. And when it ended, I saved it. That was the moment I stopped being the loyal wife and started becoming something else. I didn't say a word that night. Richard came out of the shower, kissed me, slid into bed beside me like nothing had changed. I lay stiff, silent, eyes wide open in the dark. I didn't sleep a minute. The next morning I woke up before him, made coffee, looked at him as he snoozed, his face peaceful, unaware of the storm brewing in my chest. I thought of confronting him right then, throwing the phone in his face, demanding an explanation, shaming him. But something inside me said no. Don't give him the performance he expects. He would deny it, blame me, twist the truth, cry maybe, then beg, then lie again. Men like Richard always had a backup script. But I had a different role in mind. For the next 2 weeks, I played the part of the clueless wife. Smiled when he told me he'd be home late again. Kissed him goodbye each morning. Packed his lunches, ironed his shirts, and checked his phone every time he left it unattended. Found everything. More videos. Texts. Dinner reservations. Hotel receipts. He wasn't even good at hiding it. He had grown so confident in my loyalty that he had become careless. That was his first mistake. I started collecting evidence like a private investigator. I made copies of everything. Emails, photos, call logs. I even took a picture of the bottle of wine he ordered for their company dinners, the one I had introduced him to on our honeymoon in Napa Valley. A cruel twist, really. And then, when I was ready, I started researching his company. Richard was a senior accounts manager at a mid-sized tech firm. They prided themselves on workplace ethics. Their website featured smiling faces and a whole section on zero tolerance for internal relationships. His boss, Mr. Henson, was known to be a no-nonsense kind of guy. A clean-cut executive who didn't like scandals, especially ones that could cost clients. Perfect. I wrote an email. Not from my personal account, of course. I made a new one. Professional sounding. Neutral. Cold. Subject. Important concern regarding company conduct. Dear Mr. Henson, I am reaching out to bring your attention to a situation that may pose reputational risk to your company. Attached are materials involving one of your senior managers, Richard L., which suggests serious ethical violations and inappropriate conduct within the workplace. I hope this information is handled with discretion and care. Regards. Concerned party. I attached 5 files. 1 video. 2 screenshots of explicit messages. 1 dinner receipt with the company credit card clearly shown. And 1 picture of the hotel keycard dated the same night as a company conference in Chicago. Then I hit send. It was done. I stood up, closed my laptop, and poured myself another glass of wine. This time the bitterness tasted like power. Richard came home that night, humming, relaxed, unaware that a digital bomb had just exploded under his career. He kissed me on the neck and asked if I wanted Thai or sushi for dinner. I smiled and said, "Surprise me." He had no idea. I slept like a baby that night. The next morning he got a phone call. I watched his face shift from casual to confused, then worried, then white as a ghost. He hung up and stared at me. "Something's going on at work," he said. "Some weird accusations." I raised my eyebrows. "Really? Like what?" He shrugged. "I don't know. HR wants to meet. Something about ethics violations. It's probably nothing." But it wasn't nothing. By the end of that week, Richard was suspended. The assistant. Apparently she had a record. An HR complaint from another married executive she got close to. The company had buried it. But now, with video proof, they couldn't look the other way. Richard came home broken. He tried to explain. Said he had slipped up. That it was meaningless. That he loved me. He nodded. He begged me not to leave him. Not to ruin him. But it was already ruined. He ruined it. All I did was press send. People say revenge is best served cold. But they never tell you how satisfying it is when it's served calm. Without shouting, without slamming doors. Just a quiet woman, a calm smile, and consequences. That was me. Richard spent the weekend pacing. He barely ate. His phone never left his hand. He was trying to do damage control, but the ship was already halfway underwater. I watched him unravel, sipping coffee, nodding occasionally when he tried to explain things I never asked about. He had no idea I was the one who sank him. By Monday morning, his company had escalated the matter. The HR director, a woman I imagined had seen it all, was suddenly very, very interested in his professional boundaries. His mistress, former mistress, was escorted out of the office by security. I found that detail in a Reddit post from someone claiming to work in the same building. The internet has a way of exposing everything when you know where to look. Richard got called into a formal ethics hearing. He was still trying to bluff confidence, told me it was a misunderstanding. I smiled and packed his lunch. It had a turkey sandwich and a note inside. "Don't lie today. It'll only make it worse." He didn't bring it up. Just stared at me like I had grown wings or horns. He couldn't tell which. That night, he came home later than usual. His tie was crooked, his eyes red. I asked how the hearing went, knowing every single answer already. "They showed me stuff," he muttered. "What kind of stuff?" He didn't respond. Just sat there, elbows on the kitchen counter, holding his head like it was the only thing still intact. Then came the real kicker. He looked up and said, "They said it was anonymous. But someone sent the video. The emails. Everything." His voice cracked. "Do you know who would do that?" I took a sip of my tea. "No idea," I said calmly. "But whoever it was must have cared about company ethics." He didn't say another word. Just stared. The next morning, Richard was suspended indefinitely, pending further investigation. He was told not to contact any co-workers, not to access company systems, not to step into the office. They cut off his email within the hour. His corporate credit card was frozen. His company car, yes, the one he used to pick up that girl from their hotel trysts, was requested to be returned. He was unraveling thread by thread. And I was finally breathing. But I wasn't done. Because it wasn't just about the cheating. It was about the insult, the disrespect, the audacity to live a double life and come home smelling like lies, then expect me to play housewife while he got his ego stroked by a girl who couldn't spell loyalty if it was tattooed on her arm. I wasn't going to destroy him. I was going to let him destroy himself with just the right push. That weekend I called a lawyer. Not for divorce. Not yet. But for a quiet consultation. I wanted to know where I stood. Financially. Legally. Turned out, Richard had signed a postnup with me 2 years ago when we bought our house. Standard stuff at the time. But what he didn't realize was that Clause 17b clearly stated that any proven infidelity would waive his rights to my inheritance. My grandmother had left me over $400,000. He wouldn't see a dime. I emailed the lawyer the video. He called back an hour later and said, "We'll be ready when you are." I didn't file. Not immediately. That would be too clean. No, I wanted Richard to feel what it was like to live in suspense. To wake up every morning wondering what part of his life would fall apart next. So I started planting seeds. I changed my hair, something bolder. I wore lipstick again. I started going out for dinners with friends, and left my phone face down. He noticed. He didn't dare ask. One night he finally cracked. "Where were you?" he asked, voice trembling. I looked him dead in the eyes. "Out," I said. He swallowed hard. "With who?" I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, honey. We don't do those questions anymore. Remember?" He said nothing. Just stared, ashamed, like a child who knew the belt was coming but had no clue when. I loved that moment. Not because I was being cruel, but because it was the first time I felt power return to my chest. 2 weeks after his suspension, Richard received a formal termination letter. I watched him read it in silence. Then he crumpled it. Then he cried. "I can fix this," he said. "You already did," I replied. "You fixed my blindness." He begged. He said he was a man who made a mistake. That nobody's perfect. That we had something real. He nodded. "You had something real," I said. "Then you traded it for something easy." I walked out of the room. He didn't follow. On the 3rd Sunday after the email bomb, I invited my mother for brunch. Richard looked like hell. Barely shaven, dark circles, still clinging to hope like a man drowning clings to a plank of rot. She looked at him and said, "You look tired, Richard." He nodded weakly. "It's been hard." She sipped her coffee. "Cheating tends to make life difficult." He froze. And for the first time I saw it. Shame sinking into his spine like lead. That night, he asked if I would ever forgive him. I told him forgiveness was a future conversation. "But trust." "Trust," I said, "left the night I watched you unzip your pants for someone else in a Marriott." He slept on the couch. Weeks passed. He tried to pick up the pieces. Resume updates, awkward job interviews, lukewarm referrals. Turns out, companies don't like hiring executives with scandal attached to their names. Especially ones involving video proof. He became a shell. Quiet. Withdrawn. Not from guilt, but from the realization that karma wasn't a myth. It was me. There's a moment, just one, when a woman stops loving a man. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet. Like a breath. Like a final heartbeat before silence. And once that moment happens, no apology can rewind it. For me, that moment came on a Tuesday. Richard was sitting in the living room, scrolling job boards on his laptop, eyes tired. His once proud shoulders drooped like a fallen statue. There was no defiance in him anymore. No arrogance. Just a broken man trying to stitch his reputation with frayed thread. I watched him from the kitchen. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was done. I waited until he went to bed. Then I pulled out the folder I had hidden for weeks. Legal documents, financial statements, copies of texts, the video, and a crisp letterhead from my attorney. I placed it neatly on the dining table. The next morning I didn't say a word. Just poured coffee, handed him the folder and sat down. He opened it slowly. His eyes stopped at the first line. Petition for dissolution of marriage. He didn't speak. Just looked at me. Mouth parted. Breath caught. "I'm not doing this out of revenge," I said calmly. "I'm doing it because I want peace." He swallowed. "But we can still fix it. Therapy." I'll do anything. No, I said. You did everything already. I'm just finishing it. His hand shook. He asked if I still loved him. And I gave him the only answer he deserved. I used to. Before I saw who you really were. That afternoon I left the house for a walk. The sun was warm. The breeze felt like freedom. I bought myself flowers. Not because anyone had wronged me that day, but because I had finally stopped wronging myself. By staying too long. By hoping too much. By accepting too little. The divorce went quickly. Richard didn't fight. He knew better. The evidence was stacked against him like a mountain, and I stood at the summit with calm eyes and steady hands. He moved out 2 weeks later. I didn't cry when he left. I didn't play music or drink wine or burn his clothes. I just opened the windows and let the air change. Months passed. Friends started inviting me out again. I traveled. I laughed. I remembered who I was before I became someone's background noise. One night, I ran into an old friend at a gallery opening. He asked how I'd been. I said, recovering. He smiled. You look like someone who won. He nodded. 'Cause I had. Not by shouting. Not by breaking things. But by reclaiming my dignity, one truth at a time. I never told Richard it was me who sent the video to his boss. He still doesn't know. And I hope he lies awake at night wondering. Not because I want him to suffer, but because I want him to remember that actions echo. And sometimes karma wears lipstick and knows your email password. This is my story. Not just about betrayal, but about rebirth. Because sometimes the most beautiful revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rising. It's walking away. It's thriving. And letting them watch. From far, far behind.